Very good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to this World of Research program. Yeah, this is the webinar series 4 on art of accurate referencing. So in the last couple of series, we have seen how we can identify the right sources, find for the desired sources, how those sources used as literature to support your literature writing, and finally, today we have to learn about the knowledge of or to acquire the skill of accurate referencing. Yeah, so that we can acknowledge the authors that had contributed to those content. So as much as acquiring literature writing skill is an essential research skills, art of accurate referencing is also an equally important to be acquired. So one of the major challenges faced by the new research scholars is not knowing the basic concept of academic research. So this World of Research program actually is designed to support the academic research journey of the journey of new research scholars, also the new postgraduate students. Yeah. So ProQuest will be hosting more webinar series focusing on sharing the best practices and introducing you to some basics, but a very important academic research concept. So before we move further, please take note of some of the important points that I have shared in the chat box. This training session is about an hour. And if you notice, the audio is set one way. So if you have any question, please post it in the chat panel and we will address your question toward the end of the session. And even if you're facing any audio issues or connection issues, please let us know via the chat box as well. So in the past weeks, some of you might have traveled with us on this webinar series, Art of Selecting the Right Resources, Art of Identifying the Right Keywords and Effective Searching, Art of Literature Review in Academic Work. And today will be the final series, that's series 4, that is on the Art of Accurate Referencing. Yeah? So before we go further again, let me just share with you some brief introduction about myself. My name is Kurinji Malar, and I'm the training and consulting partner with ProQuest, and I'm actually based in Malaysia. So as for me, working and supporting academic institutions, faculties, librarians, researchers, and students is something very, very close to my heart. Sorry. And for some of you, you might be very familiar with Mr. Sanjay Rajan from our last session. Yeah, Mr. Sanjay is our panelist for today's session, and he is a senior training and consulting partner for ProQuest for APAC, and currently is based in New Delhi. He has almost about 12 years of experience in the industry, in the information service industry. And he's also the alumni of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, in short is CSIR, and also the National Institute of Science, Communication and Information Resources, New Delhi. Yeah. He had worked on the green energy technology patents, and along the way he had presented his research work in conferences, and also his dissertation has been published in the ProQuest Dissertation and Thesis Global. So at present, he is actively engaged in academic research work in the management field, and he is also a certified coach and counselor. So during his professional journey, he has interacted with many research scholars, students across APAC, UK, and helped the academic organization in empowering their research and learning process. So that's about Mr. Sanjay. Sanjay, you want to say hi to everybody?
Thank you so much, Kurunji, for giving a wonderful introductions to me. I'm so grateful and thankful for inviting me in this session. And on behalf of the ProQuest global team, I would like to welcome to all the participants in this session. And it's our honor to get a chance to interact with all of you. So thank you so much for joining. We are so grateful that you are here in this session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sanjay. So now let's look at the session's objective for today. So at the end of the session, you will be able to understand what references is and how you can cite your references in your academic writing, yeah, and research. And also next, you will be able to understand why accurate referencing and perfect finishing is important for academic writing and research. And we will relate. You will be able to relate to some of the samples, some incorrect samples, some good referencing as well along the way. And finally, we will also take you through how ProQuest platform can be helpful in writing accurate referencing. Okay. So that'll be our main objective for today. And this session, as you know, this is aimed at the new scholars who are embarking into your new research journey, and even though if you're even in the midst of your research journey. Yeah? So what is referencing and accurate referencing? So let's move forward and look at it in detail. Okay. So academic writing basically involves a lot of work from the others, yeah. So we rely so much on we rely heavily on the academic work that done by the others. So each of these sources basically they have their own authors. So, and you know that you are not the author, but you have worked using the contribution of the other authors. So therefore, it's very, very important for us to acknowledge those sources. Yeah. So when it comes to acknowledging or to giving credit, so it's very important. So, but how do we acknowledge or give credit to those authors? Is through referencing, or citing those information in our research. So acknowledging sources clearly and correctly, it's an important part of academic communication. Okay? So in nutshell, we can just conclude that acknowledging sources and the authors clearly and accurately are a very important part of academic communication. Okay? So what is referencing basically? I'm sure most of you know what is referencing. You have done many times referencing, but what is it all about? So if you really think about it, if you look at it carefully, so you know it's basically a way of citing others' work or stating the sources of the ideas or facts or the opinions of others. So you need to provide the reference whenever you draw somebody else's ideas or words, or even your research, you need to provide the recognition. So referencing is a way to give credit to the writers from what you have borrowed, those thoughts, the ideas, the words, or the work, whatever that has been contributed from the other authors. So for those who are, you need to know what is the preferred or the convention or the guideline that you apply in your own university. So you will need to check with your institution before you embark on further journey. Yeah? Now, we know that we need to acknowledge those contributions. Most of us, we know that yes, this is the contribution, this is the literature from this is the journal article from someone, and I'm used in supporting my arguments, and I need to acknowledge that. How do I acknowledge those information? How do I acknowledge those contributions? So there are two ways. Yeah, you can acknowledge them in two ways. One is through your in-text citation. So in-text citation means when you cite in your body of the research. Yeah, so that means you either cite it using the parenthetical citation, or you can use the narrative citation. Yeah? So for example, you can see that in this example, let me enable my pointer. Okay, page, comma 2004. This is the parenthetical citation, and bait in bracket 2004. It's actually the narrative citation. And the other way that I can recognize, so once I have cited them in the in-text citation, then I will need to list the detail of the information that I had cited. So that is called the reference list. Yeah. So when we have reference list or bibliography or works cited list, so that is how we acknowledge the contribution from the others. So when we look at the reference list, so reference list or bibliography or work cited are the detailed source elements that you presented at the end of your work, the end of the research paper. And what's the differences between the references and bibliography? So most of us are very familiar with references. Some of you we have heard about bibliography. So what is the differences between those two? So bibliography is a detailed references cited in your work, plus the background readings or other materials that you have read, but you actually don't cite it. Yeah? So that is bibliography. So bibliography contains of the list of references, including the non-cited references as well. So depending on the referencing style that you use, you either provide the reference list or the work cited list or the bibliography. Yeah. So for example, if you use APA or Harvard referencing, it uses references. But if you're using the MLA, right, MLA references citation style, then it uses work cited. So in different courses may require different way of citing it. So always consult your advisors. Always refer to the published guidelines in your institution. Okay. So there are two general rules. Yeah, two general rules. How the general rules of the citation. So one is the parenthetical. So I spoke about parenthetical. So when I spoke about parenthetical, that means when you cite the information in the in-text citation, yeah, like this one here, you cite the authors and the date or the page number within the bracket. That's why it's called parenthetical. And if you cite it using the footnote or the numbers, so for example, footnotes or endnotes with the bracketed or the superscripted number is in the text, and the references in the bottom of the work or the either bottom of the page or at the bottom of the work. Yeah? So it uses like numerical citing. So we can see the numerical citing can be in the square bracket, in the round bracket, or in the superscripted numbers. Okay, now we look at the detail of the referencings we spoke about earlier, the parenthetical, the footnote, and the number. So when we talk about the parenthetical, so it is actually like this. For example, if you look at it, the author's surnames and the date of the publication and the page number are given in the parentheses. That's why it's called parenthetical. So usually it's a round bracket. So for example, if you look at this citation, so you will see that Schmidt, 2011 in a square bracket. So this is how the parenthetical citation looks like. And parenthetical citation usually is very popular in the APA citations, Chicago author date, Harvard MLA, or Turabian author date. Yeah, so these are all applies the parenthetical citation style. And when you look at the footnote, so footnote is something that maybe not everyone is familiar, but footnote is also used as part of the citation style in text citation as well. So footnote means you have the superscript number. They are added in the text, and the citation details are provided at the bottom of the page. Yeah, right after the finishing of the paragraph, in the bottom of the page, you will see the detail of the citation. So this is an example of the superscripted footnote, numbering superscripted number in the footnote, and numbered. So numbered are also similar, but these are more like it's numbered. The numbers in the text corresponds to the references in the numerically ordered list. Yeah, basically what happens, if you use parenthetical citation, you will have the alphabetical, your reference list will be in the alphabetical order. But if you use the numbers, so usually it is in the numerical order list at the end of the document. So if you see that some of the examples that you use the the square bracket, yeah, like for example, 1 square bracket. So now, when I explain this, you may not be able to relate it. Now let's look at some of the examples, how it's been applied in the in-text citation. Okay? So this is one very simple, how this in-text citation referencing in one of the journals. So if you look at it carefully, zoom into it, you can see these are all the parenthetical citation or even some of this narrative citation has been applied. So when you apply that into your body of your research, and then you will have your list of references towards the at the end of your research page or on your research page paper. So for example, in this example, this will correspond accordingly to whatever that has been cited here. It will correspond accordingly here, the list. Okay, now this is another example of the citation, just is from a different article. So you can see how this has been cited, or this is the example of the citation, and how is its references here. So these are still more on the parenthetical citation. But if you want to see the differences on the footnote, okay, here you go. So you have this scholarly journal. This is relevant to fintech and some financial regulation related article. So where this has been cited in the footnote. Yeah? So using the footnote style. So when we talk about footnote, you can see the footnotes in the superscripted words. Yeah, the numbers are in the superscripted word, and it is right after the paragraph, right after the end of that page. You will see that the list of the detailed list of the references is listed here. So this is how it looks like. Now next is when you reference the dissertation and thesis. So when you do in-text references in the dissertation and thesis, this is how it looks like. So in some instances, for here, if you can see, there are many which, for example, this is actually the narrative, how narratively you have do the in-text citation. So this is the example of that. And here the references. Okay. Now, the other one is we talked about, hold on a second. Okay, that's fine. Let's move on. Okay, so the reference accuracy. So why is it important to have the reference accuracy, and why is that, what are the elements that you need to focus to ensure that you have a reference accuracy? So if you look at most of the authors, or most of the researchers, our focus will be more on presenting the ideas in their references. And what happens then is, because of too much focus on presenting the ideas and writing the information, supporting the evidences and so on, but we always have lack of time to focus on the references. So this has resulted in inconsistency in the references. So you sometimes have the incomplete information in the references. Sometimes you have wrong pages, the citation with the wrong page numbers, and sometimes it's poorly structured. So this happens. So to avoid any of those, because it has got a very heavy consequences in academic writing. So any problems with the reference accuracy, or it can underestimate the impact of the author's work of the journal. So for example, a measurable impact of institutional repositories will increasingly depend on the linking of the content to the other sources. So if you don't have an accurate information, then this will not be able to go further. So as for those who are working on your dissertation and thesis, you also need to pay a lot more attention to do the accurate referencing. So to get through your research papers, in some instances, references also carries substantial marks that makes a difference in your grading. So it's very important to do that. So when you cite your sources correctly, you basically leave no question in your reader's mind regarding to the point that you have argued. So let's so with that, you need to make sure that you pay some attention to that. So for example, when you choose a style, you identify the right sources, collect the information and write the reference list. So when you're writing the reference list, you make sure that you go through the details of accurate spelling of author's name, correct page numbering, accuracy of relevant facts that will be stated in the paper, and also the currency of the sources. So in most references, if you use information that is more than 5 years, especially in the medical field, it may indicate that you are not the literature is not fully undertaken. Yeah, the review of the literature is not fully undertaken. So that is why you must make sure that you have the currency of the sources must be current to support your research, and also the correct DOI numbers, the correct link of the documents. Most importantly, the corrections, the correct citation style, methods, and must strictly follow the instructions of the author, okay, or the requirement of the institution. So that is what you need to take note. Yeah? So now the question is again, so when should I refer? Should I refer to everything that I need to, I have read? In all those information, all those questions might come to your mind. So now, yes, you need to refer, or even your connections with your reference is associated with the literature review process, as the literature review process actually starts with the introduction. Yeah, it starts at the introduction stage, where you establish your foundation by explaining and justifying the purpose of the or the rationale of your research till the conclusion, right? Till the conclusion. So to inform that, to support, to justify your conclusion and contribution. So referencing process also starts from the introduction to the conclusion. So your connection with references is throughout the writing process. Okay, now when should I refer? What should I refer then? When and how should I do the references? So whenever you use data, or whenever you use the idea from someone else's work, for example, if you take journal articles or textbooks or information from the website, you should cite the original author to make it clear that idea, where the idea came from. So most of the time, we have, most of us, we might have the misconception that you will only need to acknowledge or cite or to make a references to the text, to the information in the text format from the authors. No, but it is actually more than that. So you should acknowledge other original content such as data, such as the methods, the process, images. So basically any form of intellectual property content. So like quotations, yeah, we take quotations to quote exactly like what have been said by the other contributor, and also need to acknowledge that appropriately. And also if you are taking some ideas, it could be that ideas that it is not in the written form, but you probably heard it in the interviews or speeches or in the conferences. So you can acknowledge to cite and reference by either summarizing it, paraphrasing it, or directly quote their work. So this is the key part of good practice in academic writing. So in academic writing, most of your essays or assignments should be paraphrased, yeah, paraphrased in your own words. So it will actually expose, or it will show your critical thinking skills, your synthesizing skills in articulating your work, as compared to just presenting the summarized and the content and the condensed version. And the overuse of quotation should be also avoided, because it may even lead to high plagiarism. So when we talk about summarizing, basically we capture the main ideas, we are putting into our own word, but we are just presenting the broad overview of the source material. So it is definitely shorter than the original source. But paraphrasing is a restatement of your text in your own words, but it's not just involving just changing the wording, but it's also, you are basically preserving the original meaning, and you're putting into your critical thinking skills as well. So that is paraphrasing. And quoting. Quoting is basically identical to the original source. So one small part of the source you actually quote it, either you use the quotation mark or you quote it with the indented block or with the no quotation mark. Yeah? So you can do many ways how you want to present the data. Okay, now just an example of the how you have if you cite it using if you're summarizing, and how do you cite it. Yeah, so in summarizing, when you cite it, you have two ways to cite it, because if you are using just parenthetical citation, so sometimes it's not very the flow may not be there. So if you want to have both combination of the narrative citation means in this example is according to Quotations. In bracket you have the year, and you talk about the content. And parenthetical citation means it's actually more information focused, and this is author focused. So you will talk about the information and you cite it. Okay, this is from Quotations, 2007 in the bracket. So that's why it's parenthetical citation, and this is narrative citation. So you can also do the same concept. You can apply the same concept when you are paraphrasing. Okay, so paraphrasing means you basically take the content, you put it in your own words, but you are citing that information either from the narrative citation form, which is the author focused. So for example, we said, okay, Webster Stratton, 2016 in bracket, described a case example, blah, 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 and so on. And then you cite the page number. You see the page number because it's more than one pages. You can see PP 152 to 153. Okay, and parenthetical citation also should be applied. So when you do the parenthetical citation, you basically talk about all the information that you want to say, and then you cite it and say Elwood and others, 2011, and also Figley also say the same. So you put it together. Okay, so this is how you cite it. Either you're summarizing or you're paraphrasing. You have two ways to cite it. Okay, now citing a short quotation. So quotation is sometimes important, especially when you have certain things that you can't paraphrase it. You basically need to use the quotation to support your arguments or to strengthen your arguments. So you use the short quotation, for example. So again, those quotation can be also cited in the narrative citation or parenthetical citation. Okay, so when we talk about short quotation in the narrative citation form, and of course you will see according to Jones in bracket 1998, then you see that it's a quotation mark here. So this is what you are actually quoting exactly from the original content. Yeah, so exactly from the original content and with the page number. And you do the same here. You quote the exact quotation, and you say, okay, from where is it from? So this is Erwin et al., Erwin and others, page 470. Because you are quoting this information, page number is very, very, very important. Yeah, because you need to say where you take the quotation from. Okay. Now there are some with a very long quotations. Long quotation means more than 40 words, usually it's more than 40 words. So you need to write it as a block quotation. Start with a new line, and then indent the whole block with 0.5 inches, and that doesn't come with it's no longer have the quotation mark. And of course your citation is here. So this is narrative format. Flaws and others, 2018, described how they address and all those information. So here you go all the block quotation, and it's the same for the parenthetical as well. So when you do the parenthetical, is at the end of the block. You cite it accordingly. And again, quotation, you must have your page number. Okay, now question. When you need to cite? Okay, this is very interesting. All of us will have the question. Sometimes we feel, okay, I'm not sure this could be my own ideas, but you're not sure if maybe you have read it somewhere, so you are not sure whether or not to cite. So you ask questions such as like, did I know this information without having look it up, yeah, before I start my academic work? So if your answer is no, then of course you need to cite it. And are the data or the images or other medias my own work? So if you have created something and you have published it, if it's your own work, then it's fine. If it is not, then you need to cite it. Are these ideas my own, came by my own brain? Sometimes we feel like we probably have read a couple of books and then we thought this is our ideas, but not. It is probably somehow it's from a book or from any of the articles that we have read before. So if it's no, then you know you need to cite it. So is it a common knowledge? Sometimes it's very difficult, it's very subjective to know whether it's a common knowledge or not. So when you doubt it, the moment you have a doubt, you cite it. Yeah, you cite it. That is the best way to avoid any consequences. Whenever you are doubt, you cite it. Like even a single word, if it is distinctive to your author's argument, you must use quotation mark and cite the source. So that's how you know, yes, I need to cite it. Yeah. So when it's actually it's good to all the time cite it, because sometimes, you know, when we are not sure, it's always the best to go back to look at it and cite it, to just avoid any consequences. Okay, so this is just an idea. This is always possible, right? If you have the time, if you're possible, you keep your ideas separate from the author. So if you want to do so, you need to keep track of it. So you keep track in creating a worksheets and say, okay, this is what is being said. So from there, I form my own ideas and so on. So it's better for you to have a worksheet. This is recommended to do, just a suggestion. Okay, why should you reference accurately? Again, so referencing is one thing, but why that you need to do it accurately? Okay, so for that, I would like to relate to you this scenario that's so important, why accurate referencing is really, really important. So for example, if you have a plan to travel internationally or even domestically. So when you arrive at the airport, in the airport, you are required to present your vaccination certificates as a proof of you are vaccinated, right? So you need to present your certificates that contains your name, the elements, your name, the personal identifier, the date of birth, the name of the vaccines that you have taken, the date of the vaccination, and etc. So now let's say if you are there and if you're not able to present the certificate, the vaccination certificate, what happens if you fail to present it, or if you just share or show the partial information of your information is needed? So is this the same concept? It's the same concept in referencing and referencing accurate references. Okay. Now, why it's so important for us correctly reference? So it's basically, number one is to give credit. Yeah. So talking about the credit, which allows you to acknowledge the contribution of others writers, respect the intellectual property rights that the researchers have done. So in other words, you're basically giving a credit to the original author. So, and also it established origin of the ideas and provides source of information for the readers who wants to find out about the ideas. So if you probably have cited partially of those information, but for the users wants to know more about it, so they are able to go back to and look at the whole detail about those ideas. And when it comes to academic writing, or even if you're talking about plagiarism, so it's very important. So for example, if you do not, when you write it and we do not reference correctly, that definitely will take you to the to the to the consequences of plagiarism and etc. So it's very important for us to establish the academic integrity, so protect you from the accusation of plagiarism or any academic consequences. More than that, it also gives you an evidence, evidence for your ideas or arguments or opinions, and validate your research with a greater authority and credibility. So by citing experts in your field, you're showing your marker or the readers that you are aware of the field in which you are operating, in which the field that you are embarking on. Yeah? So that is also very important, why we need to cite and cite or reference accurately. Okay. Now for those who are working on research papers, it's very important if you want that to be published. So you must also show your work, the excellent referencing to show off your scientific knowledge, understanding the topic and the hallmark of widely read and well-informed work. Yeah? So that is very important to prove yourself, that you have done a complete research and you have referred all the information in your research paper. And also, attention to the referencing not only makes you feel better researchers, but it enhances your reputation amongst the editors. Okay, looking at referring to the information that you have given in your in-text, looking back on your references, that definitely enhances your reputation amongst the editors, not only editors, but reviewers as well as readers. So having current citation will help journal editors to see that it's a potential audience for your manuscript. So basically, you are creating the opportunity here by citing or reference accurately. You're creating an opportunity here. So now, what happens when you do not cite or reference accurately? When you do a poor or inaccurate referencing? So apart from facing the plagiarism or even the more other academic consequences, so as the author of the scholarly journals, poor inaccurate referencing will face more consequences. For example, not accepting. So if you submit your paper, the reviewer will not accept the manuscript for publication. Yeah. Number two is negatively affect the indexability. So when I want to do an index, to be indexed so that it can be discoverable, then you will have a lots of negative effect on the indexability. And same goes for the journal impact. Yeah, so the journal impact indicators influence academic promotions. The more it's being cited, the more it's being used and applied by the others, the better it is. So it will impact the influence of academic promotion and research grant allocation globally. So these indicators are heavily depend on the accuracy of your references. Okay. And citation analysis. So citation analysis is very, very impossible to be done when you have references. So you do not know how many papers has been cited. Your papers has been cited, forward cited, backward cited, and so on. So citation analysis is become impossible. So for even like as a student, you will have an impact to your academic records. You're not possibly reflects on the ethics. So if you do not reference accurately, so there's a lots of other academic consequences as well. So let's look at the common mistakes. Yeah? The common mistakes that's done by users. Some of these common mistakes. So most of you are familiar. So when you are citing, sometimes we have missing references or citation. Yeah, so we probably have cited in the text, but it probably is missing in the references. And then you have citation in alphabetical order. If you may not put it into alphabetical order, so when it comes to when you have your numbers in between, you do not know how to put it into the alphabetical order. And then you have missing pages. So this missing pages is very, very important, especially when you have you cite with the quotations, right? It's very important to have your pages to be quoted there. So if you're missing, for example, in this example, yeah, so you can see Smith 2019, but there's no page number, but here you have, so the correct one is page number, especially if you are doing quotation, you're citing the quotation and etc. And the next one is common mistakes, continuing common mistakes as well. You have not citing the paraphrased information. So this is again, just you don't cite it, you put it like your own opinion. So that is very, very dangerous. So make sure you cite it accordingly. Whatever that information that you have reviewed, make sure you cite it accordingly. Outdated or irrelevant sources. So this is also again very important. Sometimes we actually learned about the use of the CRAP evaluation techniques that we learned last week. So make sure that you evaluate your content before you even want to cite it. So in this example, we talk about Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is a very good place to start your research, but it is not a credible source. So you do not want to cite Wikipedia into your references. And of course, not including web addresses. Sometimes we refer information from the web, but we do not include the web addresses. Yeah. And again, the other common mistakes are unnecessary citations, incorrectly using et al. So et al is used when you have three and more authors, then you use the et al. But sometimes it's incorrectly used of those et al function, or even the punctuation is not correctly used. And including the author's initial or the honorifics in the in-text citation. So for example, if your authors are like, you have they have the honorific titles such as doctors, engineers, or professors, so you should not cite it such a way. You must cite it with the example that include the last name of the author. So these are all very important information you need to know, even though you know that you have your softwares to work on it, but it's always good to know to spot the mistakes, especially when if you missed it in the software, but because you know this information, you are able to spot it immediately. Okay. Now the elements of the references. So most of us, we have looked at our the first webinar series. Yeah, we have discussed about selecting the right sources, understanding the elements of the sources. So it is important to know the source so that you can make up the references correctly, so that can be recorded, and also you can allow, the moment it's recorded correctly, so that will help users to locate the information easily. So the main elements in the references are like the authors, or the title, the date of publication. But this information differs to the sources. So when I use journals, maybe the elements that I need to know, it's a little bit more than books, or comparatively to YouTube. So that is actually based on the source that you're using, and also the citation style that you are using it, the citation style that you're applying to in your research paper. So here are some elements of the references. So if I used online journal publication for my literature review and I want to cite it, so then I need to have all these components such as author, year, the article title, the journal's name, the volume, the issue, the page, and the DOI number. Okay. So, but if I'm using a publication, book publication, then I probably just need the author's year, book title, place of publication, and publisher. If I use the book chapter, then I need to have the chapter title in between. And if there's editors involved, then you can also use add in the editor's information as well. So it's always good for us to know the elements of the references. So for example, if you use video tutorial, some of the video content to cite, then you need to know also, okay, I need the author, the year, the title, the format, the place of publication, and the URL as well. So it's all this information you need to know quickly at a glance, and so that when you even do your citation using your software, but you know where to spot it, right? Okay, this is just an example if you're using Harvard references style. So if you use the journal articles, that you need to have the surname of the authors followed by the initials, year of the publication, title of the articles, title of the journals in italics, and the volume and the page number and etc. And this is the example of it. Same goes for other form of sources that you are using. So you need to be more pay more attention to that. So referencing styles. Yeah, we talk about referencing style. There are a couple of referencing styles available. Most of you might be very familiar with the referencing style. So for instance, if you use referencing styles such as APA, APA is the American Psychological Association. It comes from the association of the same name, yeah, and is widely used in multidiscipline. So there are MLA, there's Chicago, Caribbean, Vancouver, Harvard, and many more. So these are some of the most used referencing styles. So this, I'm sure some of you are already familiar with those references style. I won't go into detail. So now let's look at the recommended references style, referencing style. So for arts and humanities, usually, this depends on your institution as well. So always go back to your institution guideline, go back to your advisors, go back to your instructors to ask, okay, which style that I should use for my research topic or my project paper or my dissertation and etc. So arts and humanities usually is like Harvard, Chicago, MLA, APA. Business, economics, and social sciences recommended to use APA. And if you see the engineering, for engineering, you use the Harvard or Chicago or the IEEE citation styles and etc. For law, you use Harvard. Medical and health sciences usually use Vancouver or sometimes APA. So all this depending on the subjects, or it can be, also the requirement by the specific faculty or the institutions and so on. Okay, now just a very quick guide on APA referencing. So APA referencing style is an author date style. Yeah. So basically, you will have the author's surname, then you have the year, and if you have a range of pages, so you have your pages here. So this is like, for example, if you look at this, okay, this is on, you have, you're basically citing two authors, right? You are citing the two authors together. And here you're basically citing with the page number. So that's what it means. I don't want to go into detail about this because you can this is just information about the APA's referencing guide. But one thing that you may want to take note is when this I have spoken about the quoting, that you need to have the numbers. For those sources such as websites or ebooks, you probably, when there's no page numbers, you can use the paragraph number. For example, you can use para 1 and so on. So this is something that you want to take note here. And basic format to the references of a thesis. So for instance, if the thesis is not published, yeah, so if you notice, if you want to cite an unpublished, notice that unpublished thesis, this is probably your own thesis, if not been published elsewhere, it's for your own references. So if you want to publish it, you cannot italize, the title cannot be italicized, and you will see a quotation mark here. So for those theses that has been published, probably in the print format, so this will be the format that you want to use. And for those online that you need to know where do you get those information, the URL need to be included with the access date as well. Okay. Now for accurate referencing, very important to check the journal guidelines, check the university's guidelines, and also to develop a systematic tracking or organizing your work. So every time when we talk about organizing your work or to retrieve that information, you need to have your citation management system, or you will have your reference management software that can be very, very efficient, can be a time saver. So it allows you to collect all that information, put it together, retrieve the information, then you can annotate the sources as you go on, and you can generate the citation when you start writing. Yeah. So be concise and only most relevant information only to be cited. So don't cite, it is not about your list of your citation, list of your references here. It's very important to look at the substance of your citation. That is more important. Now, this is just an example of the author's guideline. Okay, now I'm going into the management software. So there are different types of management, although you have the management software, but it is all very important for you to know about the citation, the art of accurate referencing, so that when you are using this platform, you're using the software. So again, if there's anything goes wrong, then you will be able to track it on and you know what's going on exactly. So you have a couple of software, reference management software. There you have your ProQuest, Refworks, EndNotes, Zotero, Mendeley, all this is available to you. So basically it will take off, it reduces the stress and the headache of referencing. You don't need to remember, do I put a bracket, do I put a comma, where is a punctuation? All these things will be taken away because it automatically will help you to cite it. And of course it will back up all your bibliographic data. And most importantly, but having this, it will help you to insert the citation accordingly to the style that you have selected. So while you are writing, you just cite it, and with a click, you have all the references, it's all done. So it's very easy to use references, but nevertheless, it's very important to know the detail or the fundamental of the referencing. So, and also when you are doing your references using the software, you can quickly change the citation reference styles you want. So if you come to know, oh, this is not the reference style that I use, but if you're already doing it halfway, you can easily change it immediately because you are applying the software. Okay. Now I want to go further how ProQuest Refworks actually supports your references. So it's very simple. So there's one ProQuest Refworks, which is your citation management tool. The other one is there's ProQuest inbuilt citation tool. So for those who are familiar with ProQuest platform, so if you go into selecting a couple of papers and say I want to see the citation style, I want to copy the citation style from here, you can go into the citation. Click on the citation function such as this, right, and select the citation style that you want, and you get all the citations completed here. So all that you do is just copy the citation and put it into your papers, and if it's necessary, if you're using the APA or any other formats, make sure that it's alphabetically organized. And same goes if you're having Harvard, so you just copy and paste it into your references. But if you're using those, you can also directly import, so if you're using ProQuest platform, you can directly import those information. So for example, if you have Refworks or you have EndNotes or Cite or Mendeley, you can import it to the RIS file, or you can import directly to the Refworks and so on. So let's say if you find information elsewhere, not in the ProQuest portal, but your information you found it in your discovery layers. In the discovery layers, there's always a citation options. So whether you have, whether you want to export it to your Refworks, whether to EndNote, if you don't see, if you don't see Mendeley, basically you will export it to either to the EasyBib or to the RIS file, so then you can import it again to your citation management system. So in the Google Scholar, if you look at the citation, if you click on a citation, you can also export it to citation to Refworks directly, or Note or BibTeX and etc. And if you are importing from the JSTOR, you can also export it to the Refworks, and same goes for to the EBSCO. You can import it to the Refworks as well directly. So another way to so let's say sometimes you do not you can't import it, you don't see the citation icon. So what happens now if you have content such as like the thesis earlier, probably you're not able to cite it, you found it in the print format, so you can come and create a new references within this platform as well. Or if you found a video tutorial, so you're not able to extract it through this platform, so you can create it manually Yeah, so it can create it manually. On top of that, you can add. So if you find the PDF information, you just add, drag and drop, and add it to your citation management system. Then the metadata will be created together with the full text. Okay. Now, I want to also share. Sometimes when you are, there are also opportunity or not opportunity. There are also need for you to look at the websites. Yeah. So when you are gathering information from the website, you can use tools such as Save to Refworks. So if you're using Mendeley or any other system, I'm sure there is tools for you to abstract information from the website. So use those tools and get that information, extract all the metadata and save it into your the citation management system that you have. Now you can, so once you have that, it's very easy, just have the add-ins, yeah, into your Word document, and then you can immediately select the citation style, and you can pick the right citation style for your research paper and start looking at which paper that you want to cite it, and you can immediately cite it. Yeah. And now when you cite, after you have cited it, then you will realize that some of this information that you have, there are some missing information. So for example, you know that this authors and publication date is very important, but in this this article is missing of those information. Then you can edit. You can so you're when you finishing, yeah, when you do a finishing of your references, you will have a complete information. So if you use the cite information, for example, I say, okay, I'm selecting this article and I want to cite it, and that's it. Just by the click, you are able to cite it immediately. And then here you go. So after I have cited, I say, okay, I want to include the bibliography information, so the references will come out. So it's very easy for you to use the tools to embed the references or the in-text citation. So with that, I have all covered all this information that you need. So right now we open up this section for the Q&A session. So if you have any Q&A session, you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the chat panel. Mr. Sanjay and I will be able to help you with those questions. Any questions so far? Sometimes you will have some misconception of, about referencing. So if you have that kind of any questions, or you just have some doubts, please post it in the chat panel. We should be able to support you for those questions. Okay, there's a question how to download Refworks. Refworks is it has to be subscribed by your institution. So please check with your institution. If your institution has access to Refworks, yeah. So even if you are using any other citation management system, so make use of those functions, make use of those, the functions that is available to your citation management system. Or there could, if you don't have one, if you have a citation generator, that you find that is working accurately. So if you do not know the fundamental of referencing, then you may not know whether it's correct or not. If this is the right style, is it indented correctly? Is it the punctuation is correct? So you will not know. If all the elements are here, you will not know. So by having all this information, now it's much more easier. We are more comfortable when you are citing that information. Okay, I don't see any questions. So I will now invite Mr. Sanjay. If you want to have something you want to share from your experience, you may want to share in this session.
Sure. Thank you. One most important thing is that during the literature review, when you are doing the literature review for your research work or the academic work, it is very, very important to identify the right article. Why? Because that can be important for your citations. When you are going to cite, when you are planning to write references, when you are planning to write or list all the resources for them, one most important thing is that do not cite or refer any unnecessary articles or resources which are not have any relevancy in the context of your research questions or the research work. Please listen this is very, very important. Why? Because when you submit, maybe you are a research scholar, so you have submitted your research paper to the editors, they will first check your list of the references, and also they will compare the between the your whatever you have mentioned in the inside text and the references. If there will be any mismatch in those things, then your reputations can be damaged, and maybe they can dump your paper without looking the full text paper. This is a very, very small thing, but very, very important thing. So always refer only those things in which you have the trust that that article has a context in your research paper, that has a context in your thesis or any whatever the documents you have written. Without relevancy, do not quote anything. The second thing is that always make a consistency in the citation style. If you are very sure, just follow the guidelines the your university is following, or the journals in which you want to publish. Always stick to the that guidelines. Never ever go beyond that particular that. Otherwise, this can be also a damaging things for you. uh, Third thing is that well, mostly I recommend use a software where if you try to do everything in the manually, maybe there is a possibility that there you can miss your full stop or maybe the comma or many other things. So always use a software wherever whatever the software that is available within your institution. Either you are like Refwork is one important software, or maybe you are using any other Zotero or any open access software. Please use try to use that software for the reference. But many of times I think I recommend that learn the basics about the in-text citation, how you can do the in-text citations if you are using the resources from the different sources. It is very, very important. Many authors or many research scholars are doing the most of the mistakes in the in-text citation. Number one thing is that whatever you have put in the in-text citation, that should be also present in your list of the references. Very, very important thing is that. Number two, whatever the styles you are following in the in your citation, that should be consistent in your all the documents and all the research papers. That is very, 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 very important things like that. One thing is that many of times we are confused about the APA citation style and the Harvard citation style, because both are following the author date format. But in the APA citation style, it is you can see the any document, you can find that you can find a comma between the authors and the year. Means, for example, my name is Sanjay Rajan. If I want to quote my document, then I can write Rajan, comma 2022 or 2021. One, when you are using the Harvard style, it is just a like that Rajan 2016, no comma, no gap. Yeah. So, and one is the MLA citation style, that is also very popular. Their MLA citation style is not using the date format; they are using the only the author and the page number. So these are some basic things you can, if you can keep in your mind, and everything will be okay. Now these days, whatever the platform you are using, either you are using the ProQuest or the Refer, whatever the journals database you are using, most of the databases have their own the insight tool. Like for in the ProQuest, we have given a insight tool where whatever the documents you are going to refer, you can just quickly you can download the citations for that particular paper. One important thing I like to recommend to all of you that because writing is not a one day or the 2 day or a 1 week game. It is a game for it is a process for maybe for the 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. And during these 1, 2 or 3 years, we came across so many literatures. And during that literature, maybe today you are consulting some literature and you can identify some important points. So it is important that you can maintain an Excel sheet where whatever the resources you are going to consult, and that is important in context of, again, in the context of your research paper, put all those information in the Excel sheet so that at the last of the 1 year, last of the year, or maybe after the 3 year, when you are going to submit your final paper or maybe the thesis, at that particular moment, you have the list of all the resources. And also you can get a chance to correct all those citations or anything which you have mentioned in the Excel sheet. Many of times we include the concept in our paper, we write in our paragraphs, but we forget to mention the from where we have captured that particular information. So it is very important thing that you can maintain a Excel sheet. Excel sheet is very important. I think a blessing can be a blessings for you if you can maintain that. The second thing is that, like my colleague has also mentioned, that that is a common mistake, and I think this mistake is not only at the student level, but even at the faculty level and senior faculty level also. Like during the collecting the resources, we are collecting maybe the 100, 200, 300, 400 resources during a year or maybe the 3 years, 4 years. During that journey, many of times we collect the information and we became very familiar that is this information is maybe stored in your mind. So what happened that when you use that particular information after a year, you got an impression that this is the knowledge which I have, this is my personal knowledge I have within my mind. But we forget that many of the times whatever the informations you are crossing through them, that that became a stored in your subconscious mind. And when you are starting to use that particular information that is in your subconscious mind, it gives you a wrong impression that this is your knowledge, this is your personal knowledge. So always very important that you should maintain a sheet. Whatever the softwares you have, do not depend on the software. Use the software in the last moment when your everything has your work has been completed, you have collected all the resources. So keep the software for the last moment, but before that, be something manual. Use the Excel sheet, collect the information, and very honest. Honesty is very important. At this particular stage, you should be very honest, because if you are not going to follow this honesty, then maybe you can be in trouble in the future. Last year, I hope so many of you have got the news that the health minister of Germany, who has to resign because he has captured some information, they have used some information in their PhD thesis, but not mentioned that from where they have captured. And then author has claimed that yes, this is my information, and based on this very small thing, that health minister has to resign. Even in the last year in Pakistan, one of the vice chancellor has to resign because he has taken some content from even from his own student, but he has not given the credit. And after a year or 2 year, when a student has got that particular article, he just checked that this is the my content, and he claimed that he filed a case against that particular thing. So maybe today, at this particular moment, you are studying. Maybe in future, after 10 years, you became a powerful man. Maybe you're a minister or many other things like that. At that particular moment, you can win. So be honest. Honesty is the best policy in this particular citation, and I hope so. I think if you will follow these basic things, you will be always in comfort position, and you can feel more confident. You can be able to showcase your work to any platform around the world. But you have to be honest. You have to be honest in giving the credit to the citations. Means the simple thing, giving a credit to others very honestly. Like for example, in layman language, if this is not a very, I think, a very hypothetical thing. Even in day-to-day life, if someone offer a cup of tea or coffee, we simply say thank you. In academic words, we have to say thank you in terms of the citation. That's the basic difference with that. If you are a very good human being, surely you would like to give the credit to others, and that is called the citation. I hope so. If you keep this, everything will be fine. Yeah. Tunja, I think these are the basic things. I think
Yep.
you can just take care of that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjay. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Otherwise, I think we can end our session.
And I think this is very technical thing, and do not worry about that. I think I can understand that whatever the information that has been shared, it is not possible for anyone to remember each and everything. But all the informations are available within your, maybe within your library website or on the different sites also. So im- important is not that how much information you have collected. Information, important thing is that just focus on the basic things, just focus on the basic thing, maintain the source of the information continuously, use some software, and just try to give the very honest way, give the credit to the right authors. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I don't see any other question. So with that, I have also posted the post-webinar survey form in this session. So please feel free to give your feedback. So this is the this is the last session we had. Yeah, this is the last session. So we may organize another round of this series in second half of the year. Hopefully you can join me again. So with that, thank you so much for your time, yeah, on this Friday, and have a great weekend. And thank you, Mr. Sanjay. Thank you so much for participating in
Uh,
being a panelist in this session. And thank you, everyone.
it's
Have
my
a great
pleasure.
day ahead.
And, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining this session. Have a great day and have a great career to all of you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.